If your thoughts on the crossing site and the location of the mountain are true, what are the ramifications for the Exodus?
When you move Sinai from the Sinai Peninsula over into Arabia, you open up a whole nother routing for the wandering in the wilderness. In this traditional Sinai, you have a V shape and an exit that only goes north. Come over into Arabia, you have the whole country becomes available as the wandering location. It specifically says in the Bible that once they had sent the spies up and they knew that they were not going to go into the promised land, that God routed them, turned them, and said, "Go into the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea." The way of the Red Sea is a trade route that's been known for thousands of years, and it's become the route of the Hajj for Islam. But prior to that, for 1,000 years, it was used, and it takes the path from the mountain due south. Takes you down into the Mecca, Medina area, all the way down into Yemen. And we have done exploration all along that route looking for possible stopping stations that are mentioned in numbers, and think that we have quite a number of candidates for those locations. The mystery is there are none of those that were ever identified. By today's traditional site, pushing everything north, archaeologists have been confused and cluttered with ideas of maybe these sites never existed in the first place. And the problem is because they were looking in the wrong place.
What this opens up is that the whole land of the wandering in the wilderness took place on the Arabian Peninsula. One of the things we noticed in the Sinai at the traditional site, we drove the entire Sinai Peninsula, the whole side, from Sharm el-Sheikh all the way back up to Aqaba, Jordan, in about 2.5 hours. It would be literally impossible for someone to wander in the wilderness, even on foot, in such a tiny area. But just when you move it across into Arabia, they could have easily wandered there far longer than 40 years.
You found some other evidence as you drove down through Saudi Arabia, through the peninsula, that led you to believe that they might have wandered there.
There is a deep desert in the lower, probably the whole lower quarter of Arabia. It's called the Rub al-Khali, and literally translated in Arabic that means the empty quarter. But this whole area of sand dunes, and some of them are 1,000 feet tall, and it goes on and on and on, is covered, literally covered with artifacts. There are arrowheads by the thousands that are found year after year after year in this area. And it's a very strange thing, because even the Bedouin tradition is, for hundreds and hundreds and even thousands of years of their own tradition, they don't go there. They only venture across from time to time. We have an example of some of the artifacts that have come out of there. What I'm holding in my hand right now is what we've come to find out is a portable grinder. It's just a small rock that's been smoothed out with an even tinier one to grind, as you can see here, that they would grind flour, something like that, to bake cakes in. And if you are a wandering group of people and you're on the run, you can't carry around a traditional grinding stone, which would be about this big around. The Bible says that the women took the manna and ground it in mills and baked it into cakes. They were only to take an omer a day. They took any more than that, it rotted. But it's very interesting that there are just hundreds and hundreds of these. Now, down there in that great and terrible wilderness, there was no water. Down there in that great and terrible wilderness, there was absolutely no food to be found. Down there is where that manna would have had to come. They would have had to depend on the Lord to supply the water and the manna. And here we have all these hundreds of grinding stones that would fit that description perfectly. Not only are there grinding stones, there are arrowheads by the thousands, spear points, other sorts of weapons.
Let me just say this about the arrowheads. The arrowheads have been compared with the arrowheads out of the Fayum Valley and the Egyptian Nile Delta area, and they are of the same type, same style, same design.
Which
so that
they would have learned.
Which they would have learned during their 400 years there in Egypt, and they would have carried that technology down there with them. They'd have made these arrowheads on the spot's local materials.